Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It's time for a very late, I know. I apologize once again for how late this review, chapter 263, at least I'm getting to it before 264 drops, but this is chapter 263, A World Without Pain of Yona of the Dawn. Chapter review. Let's get underway so we're actually caught up with this. This was just another situation of me making all the graphics, thinking I made the recording, and then completely forgetting about it. So, as I was going through my playlists earlier, I realized that I actually hadn't recorded nor posted the review for this chapter. So, but that being said, let's just jump into this one. So, because honestly, does a lot happen? That would be my question to the fans. Do you think that a lot really happened here? And did it go the way you expected? Honestly, I didn't know what to expect. By the end of the chapter, it's definitely what I expected. The beginning, the whole first half of it was kind of like throwing me for a loop. Me personally, but maybe, some of you, called that this sort of situation was going to happen. The manipulation of the situation was going to happen. I am a little perturbed at just one small thing, but we'll get to it. So anyways, Zeno and Yona, end up in this beautiful field. There's a little shrine there and stuff like that, and everything's gorgeous. Everything's just, the wind, and it's a nice breezy summer type situation. They're there, they awaken, they're like, are we inside the chalice? And that's when Zeno remarks that he's never seen this place before. It's completely different from when he entered it, and now boom, all of a sudden the little miss notices right away there are her three dragons. And I'm like, wait a minute, and by the end of this, was anybody fooled? Because I was fooled at this point. I was like, okay, this makes sense. They would be stuck in the chalice. The little miss is here, the Crimson Dragon King is here, so of course the dragons would respond to her. And then they look like themselves, they act like themselves, Yona dear, princess, all that stuff, and all three dragons are there, and it's beautiful. You were really here. And she's so happy. She tears up. They're warm. I can feel their warmth. They're alive. Everyone is alive. They have this nice big hug and asks about their bodies. Immediately, we don't stand on ceremony very long, which is good for pacing purposes, knowing what we know now. I do like the fact that they just go through and they're like, okay, so what about your bodies? What about this? What about that? And it's like, we're all fine. Our wounds are now healed too. And Kicha expresses, I didn't think you would come here. Now, the way I thought this was going to go was jae-ha and Shina and Kicha cannot return. This is going to be their final farewell to Yona. She gets a chance to say goodbye, but their time is up, and they cannot go back. They cannot get out of this challenge. They cannot return. I thought that we were going to get a very somber, very heartbreaking chapter in that regard. Absolutely none of that took place. It seems like it's going that direction with everyone being so, Yona, everything's fine, dear. Everything's good. We're here. It's like, I came to bring you back and stuff like that. And they don't really mention anything about that. Nobody's freaking out. It's like they're just waiting. And I mean, of course, this makes sense. So then Zeno is, of course, very standoffish. And immediately, Yona's like, Zeno, come here. And that's when jae-ha mentions, hey, you're so stiff, that's not like you. You were the one who threw us all in here in the first place. What are you doing? You can't run. You can't get away from this situation. We're all you got, so you might as well come over here. Let's make nice, right? We have an opportunity here. We get to bitch, moan, and complain at you, right? And that's all fine dandy. That makes sense for jae-ha's character, that he would, and all of this makes a lot of sense. And of course the dragons would know because they've been seeing through their eyes the whole time. They know all about them. So the mimicry here is done very well. This is exactly what jae-ha would do in front of a crowd and in private later on, right? So Zeno's a little shocked by this, but then he returns to his neutral face and he just goes up and says, my bad, it looks like you just ran out your lifespan, so I sucked you all in and stuff. And is like, that was not kind to suck us all in, you did. We are all very much alive and stuff. So they are, on the surface, they're acting like, oh yeah, well, I guess that didn't work out. My bad, no sorries, no anything and stuff like that. And it was clear to me at this point they're going to have a much more private conversation about this. I did notice that right away because this was too easy. This was far too easy for the forgiveness. And that's when Yona's just like, hey, Hawk and the rest of everybody, they're waiting for us. We got to get the hell out of Dodge. So, that's when jae-ha just says, great idea. But this whole time we've been here, we have not been able to find a way out. There seems to be no exit. This place just goes on and on, this peaceful place. There's no end to this place. It's the hyperbolic time chamber, right? And so the sky and the grassy field are endless. But everything looks so nice. It looks like a Windows XP desktop, brought to life. It's not gorgeous by any means, but it's simple. It's very nice and simple, right? And so then Yona's a little like, this is inside the chalice of blood. I have that correct, right? That chalice of blood. It's like, kind of expected something a little different, right? And they were just like, yeah. So they talk about the space, that this is probably in a different time and space, and it's sort of its own little pocket dimension, which is basically what it is. It's a hyperbolic time chamber inside of a chalice, right? So, and they're just all remarking, they're, running down different theories. Is this a dream? Is this actually the chalice? Or is the chalice just a door that we've been transported through into this place, Are we even on Earth anymore? They have no idea. So that's when they say, hey, we've got to be able to wake up, eventually and stuff. And all of a sudden, we have both Ao and Ho show up. The two squirrels, right? And it's just like, oh, okay, they're here. It's like, how are you guys sucked in? But wait a minute, Ho is supposed to be with Main Yen right now, so this isn't really making sense. And this is my first thought. I was like, wait, Ao maybe. Ao might have been sucked in, but wait, Ho wasn't there. And then all of a sudden we see the multiplication of all of them. Like, there's all these cute animals and stuff, right? And it's like, where are they all coming from? They all look alike, but it's not Ao. They're probably just the creatures that live here. They never remark, and they're inviting for tea, and this is whatever, and it's like this peaceful idea, these, look at all the cuddly, cute creatures, that kind of idea. My issue with this is that immediately, even though everyone, we figure everything out, so the pacing of the chapter is fine, what I don't like here is that the moment that happened, and Shin-ah quite literally says they might look like Ao, but that's clearly not Ao. They're just a similar, looks like him, not him or her. So yeah, because Ao's a girl, right? Is Ao a girl? Yeah, I think Ao's a girl. Anyways, so the moment they multiply and there's a multitude of them and stuff, nobody stops to ask the question. None of the dragons, and specifically Yona, like, alright, how is this possible? Like, is this place reading our minds? Like, how are they creating this spitting image? Like, these creatures have taken the form of Ao and Ho without any knowledge of these, of these two realistically. So how are they here and blah, blah. No one's questioning the mimicry here. No one's questioning the obvious doppelganging, exploding, Jack Sparrow crab brigade of these squirrels. But she's been so curious this whole time. She's asked all the straightforward questions right away. Are your bodies okay? We got to get out of here. Like, we're moving the plot along at a nice pace, but immediately, so that's not Ao. How? And then they just drop it. They're like, oh, they're inviting us for tea. It's like, oh, well, this is fantastic. And no one stops to really question it further. And I'm just like, okay, we know why the dragons might not be, but what about Yona? And then the idea of trying to infatuate her with this very peaceful, cutesy, loving place, like taking a kid to Disney World. Like, this is the perfect, it's serene, it's wonderful, and look, like, everything's nice and happy here sort of idea, right? But it's too easy, in my opinion, without enough questions for this one scene. It does bother me. It does bother me in that regard, that, like, everyone's like, okay, but how do they know what they look like? How did this place, where did these come from? How are there so many? Why do they look like them? Like that? None of these questions are asked, right? And then they're just all chilling. They're all chilling. Everything's fine. And Yona just starts to reflect to herself about how relaxing, how serene, how peaceful this place are. There's no fighting, no politics, no war, none of this stuff. The dragons are here, I'm here, everyone's happy and stuff, right? Like, I can feel that this place is just pure. It's a pure of heart place sort of feeling, right? Now, Zeno starts to walk off and says that he's going to go exploring. Jae-ha mentions that he's going to join him. And then that's when he remarks, like, I'll carry Zeno on my back to observe and we'll see what we can do. Don't worry, Yona dear, we're fine. And this is all adding up totally fine. All the dragons are acting in character. And as I said, I expected the private chat. So everything leading up to this, other than, as I said, this whole Ao and Ho thing. Weird that nobody stopped, like, we understand the dragons, but Yona doesn't even second guess it. Like, how? Is this place reading my mind? Like, how did it know to conjure them? You know, and where did they come from? And blah, blah, blah. All these things. So, other than that, leading up to this, and a private conversation, especially Jae-ha being sort of the eldest in a regard. We know that Zeno's the oldest, obviously, but Jae-ha's sort of the elder brother feel to them all. The one with the most life experience at a point, you know, if you want to argue that. That these two would definitely be the ones to take aside and have the proper conversation, if not all the dragons. So, at least outside of the earshot of Yona. And then, you know, so they do this thing, they jump around and stuff. They start to remark on their situation and the pleasantries. It was like, oh, the grass is going everywhere. Earlier, you know, outside of where we were earlier, there are no animals here either. You know, the grass just keeps on going, but there are no animals outside of the squirrels from the shrine. You know, will there even be anything at the end of this place? Is there an end to this place? Is this just a void of endless, you know? So, they said, we're never going to get to the end at this rate. There's a lot, you know, and Jae-ha remarks, you know, we can go a little further because there's a few things that need to be said. I'm like, okay, here we go. And that's when Zeno mentions there's not. And Jae-ha said, what? You didn't come here to listen to all our complaining? You didn't come to listen to us, you know, explain yourself sort of idea, right? And that's when Zeno says, I don't really care. I'm not into that. And he's like, aren't you being pretty cold with me, Zeno? You know what I mean? And that's when they sort of drop the facade quite quickly, a page or two in, and says, it's not you personally. I just have no complaints to hear from the three of you. And it's like, oh. At first, I didn't realize what that meant, but Zeno has already figured out the truth about Jae-ha, Shin-ha, and Kija. At this point, I hadn't. When I read the chapter, I was like, oh, so wait a minute. Have they met their past generation selves? Have they discussed this, like when Zeno comes here, what they're going to do about it? Do they feel betrayed, whatever? So I'm still thinking that this is the real Jae-ha and all that stuff. And then immediately, he just keeps on going. Me aside, what you did to... And they're still playing the game. The facade's not fully dropped here. Like, Jae-ha still keeps it up. It's like, Kija, Shin-ha, and, despite... Forget about me for a second. What you did is absolutely reprehensible. It's inexcusable. Like, how could you do this to us? You sealed them in a chalice. Like, what were you thinking sort of idea, you know? They trusted you, and you would do that to them. And Zeno remarks, it's time for us to go back. And he says, I'm talking seriously to you, right? And Zeno just continues to say, I don't want to hear it. Just like how you don't intend to stop either. Your goal is to separate me from the mist as fast as you can. And it's no matter how far we will fly, the inside of the chalice is a sphere that keeps turning in circles. It doesn't lead anywhere. And hence, you know, it's a chalice. It's literally a globe that, you know, you run in this direction. You don't run to the edge. You run in a perfect circle and you never get anywheres, right? So, and Zeno recognizes this and it's like, wait a minute, so this whole time, you've just been buying time, have you? To begin with, you guys have no intention to leave this place, do you? And I don't know if you're being so festive because the mist came here, but you sure made this place all nice and pretty, didn't you? To think it was a sea of blood when I came here earlier, Dragon God. So Zeno... This is when the facade is 100% dropped, but we get sprinklings of it, like I was saying. I didn't get it up to this point. This page, the reveal was like, oh, shit, so this really isn't Jae-ha, Shin-ha, etc., you know, Kija. But if you read it back, after reading it back a few times, you can see the sprinklings of it. Zeno is jae-ha is keeping up the facade. Zeno's talking to him as a dragon god and eventually just goes, yeah, no, I'm not referring to you as jae-ha anymore. And jae-ha tries, and he's like, I was confused for a second. Your presence is the same, but of course it would be, he remarks. He's like, yeah, it was weirding me out at first, but it's like, of course you would feel nearly identical. They are you. Your souls, your spirit, your whatever, is a part of them. So of course it's going to feel that way, but it's different. There's still something a little off, so it would be a natural feeling, but you're completely different. Your imitation of Green Dragon just gives me the absolute creeps. And then he just immediately, the moment that happens, the Dragon God just says, forget it. I'm done with the facade too, and just drops him. Fall into the sea of blood. And just drops everything, just boom, literally drops the facade, drops Zeno. It's not a pun, it's a metaphor for him falling. He quite literally, not a metaphor, he literally drops his ass and then just into a sea of blood, and we see this swirl. It works really well, like it's a formless sort of jae-ha silhouette here. And he said, the dragon inside your blood already told you, didn't he? That you shall not go to the heavens, nor to the bowels of the earth either. You will never were anything but an unqualified intruder. So it's just like, wait, what? Jeez. So Zeno ends up splashing into the sea of blood. This whole conversation sort of has a lot to talk about, but not a crazy amount. In the same regard that, okay, so now that we know the truth, we find out, like, there's so many unanswered questions at the beginning of this chapter, but once we reach this page, most of them are answered. So this place still is the Sea of Blood. The dragon gods are aware that Yona is here, so they made the place look nice. They tried to make a dream. They tried to make this dream scenario where she was happy, she would be at peace, yada yada yada, and to get Zeno the hell away from her because he betrayed the laws of the dragons and stuff, right? So this all makes sense, and they would make the place look pretty, and they would make it look clean and stuff, but it's all just fake. It's a fugazi, it's a fugazi, it's a fake, it's no good, it's not the original, right? It's not the truth. So the moment, and so when we break that all down, all those questions are very quickly answered. This is just a manifestation of the dragon god's will to try to make Yona convince her to stay and keep her happy. Seems to be the idea. And to lock Zeno away or trap him, kill him, do whatever they can. So the moment he hits the true sea of blood, back the original form of the chalice, Yona notices this immediately. She sees the waves of crimson blood, I'm assuming. It's not in color, but I like to think that this is like a sea of blood. This is all like dark crimson red, this darkened sea with a night sky. Just for a moment, she notices it, she sees it, and they try to, Kija and Shina try to sort of like bring her out of it, still playing up the game, and that's when Yona just says, the landscape changed just for a second. Zeno and jae-ha, where are they? They're late and stuff like that. Yona immediately says, I'm going to go look for them. Shina and Kija try to stop her, and they said, why are you looking for them in this wide plain? It would be only dangerous. And it said, you two can sense where they are, can't you? You should be able to see where they are with your eyes as well. You can't? There's no way you can't. And there's no way you can't reply. So Yona has figured it out incredibly quickly. One chapter. We had one chapter of this deception, and it immediately, just the rug gets pulled out. I don't mind that because it feels like a lot's happening when not really a crazy amount happened, but they're not stretching this out for the drama of drama's sake. They're literally going, okay, yeah, it might have been a nice dream for a moment, but Yona and Zeno were able to both on their own figure this out fairly quickly. Even though I criticized Yona not questioning much about the multiple, squirrel, hosts, as it were. They're offering us tea. Let's have tea and crumpets. Other than that, she immediately goes more analytical here with the ones that she should be the most critical of, and said, Kija and Shinha, they really don't know how to lie. So why are you taking their form? Give me back my friends. And it's like, so she immediately recognizes that you might feel the same and blah, blah, just like Zena was saying. Thrown for a loop for a bit, something still, and it was meant to feel natural, and it does feel natural, but something's off, right? And so they immediately, unlike jae-ha, who tries to keep it up, they immediately drop it and say, we thought these forms would make you happy. We thought these forms would make you, blissful. And, they immediately remarked to her as the Crimson Dragon. So she starts to ask, what is this place? Everything has been put here and turned into this for your sake, with the wish you can feel the most at ease here. And they try to explain, basically, we created this dreamlike, this perfect, peaceful, blissful scenario for you to live out the rest of your days, sort of idea, so that you wouldn't want to go back, that you wouldn't want for anything, right? So I feel like there's something that's on the tip of my tongue that would perfectly encapsulate all this, because it feels very familiar in the sense that I must have watched or read or seen something very similar to this situation before, and it's just every time I'm just sitting here thinking, humming and hawing and just going, I'm missing something. There's a key factor to this chapter that I feel like I'm missing. Maybe you, the commenters, can let me know down below. But suffice it to say, the end part of the chapter just goes, it's like, we've been waiting for you. We've been waiting thousands of years for you. You're the Crimson Dragon. So they get a couple questions answered, but it's nothing we didn't already know. You are the dragon gods, that gave the blood to the dragon warriors. Blood of dragon warriors is just a fragment of us. We are the host of all the dragon warriors. Human lives go by in a blink. They're just boom, boom, boom. They just happen so fast and quickly for us. But it still felt so long, because our fragments, are pieces of us, and we've waited so long to see you again, sort of idea. And that's when, they keep referring to her as Crimson Dragon, and she mentions, she stands her ground pretty good, and says, I'm hoping for a better confrontation. This one felt a little weak, like not compared to when she said, I'm gonna go talk to these dragons. You know what I mean? It was like, holy shit, yeah, let's go, Yona. When she first decreed that she was gonna go into the chalice, and is, I'm going to have a talk with them. It was like, okay, she about to unload. And this one is strong, but just, I don't think it's the paneling. I think there better be a great speech coming, because this one still works. And just like, I'm Yona, the Princess of Coca Kingdom. I came here to get my friends back, and I ask that you return them to me. All perfectly good lines, perfectly good words, but just, it's not hitting as hard as when she first decreed, or, decided and declared that she was going to enter the chalice, and like, we will have words with these dragon gods, It's like, okay, I'm about to tear a strip off of them, and now it feels like it's a little lackluster in response. However, this chapter does end with nothing yet being solved completely yet. So, and then they said, they're right here. I don't mean their shape. There's no meaning if their souls aren't there. And said, this is strange. You smiled after seeing us. You adore small animals, and you felt at peace in front of such a beautiful landscape. We can heal your heart without them. And it's, so they literally did, read her mind, or, look through her visions or her memories or what have you. And they're like, this is, sort of reminds me of the Harry Potter thing with the love potion. Each love potion smells different to a different person to attract that person. So whatever your favorite scent is, your idea of your best day or whatever, that's what they have conjured. They have conjured, okay, she loves the open sky, the outdoors, a breezy summer day. She loves cute things, small animals, and a calm afternoon with tea and stuff like, and she likes her friends around her. So they were concocting, this perfect day, like everything that she loves, and they tried their best, but it's all a lie, it's all deception. And Yona saw right through it and says, I don't need comforting. I want to spend my life with them, whether it's in the the comfort of my own home and bed, or if I'm down in the trenches and in the mud with them and the blood. I'd still rather be with them no matter what situation I'm in. And I'm like, okay, lines are getting a little better. All right, cool. I was like, I like that. She's standing firm to her ground. It's like, yes, this place is wonderful, but it's still a lie. As long as I live, I want to be with the dragons above all else. And they try to say, yes, but they are fleeting lives. they're going to be gone. You know, one blow from us and they disappear completely. They are fragile. They are fleeting. You know, so I think, the line here is they are embers in the wind. They're so minuscule in time. You know, they're just a fragment of time, not even barely worth the notice. According to, of course, the Dragon Gods, it says. And then Yona does have, this is the line I like. Best line of the chapter is, their lives are not your toys. And like Yona is standing firm. She's not freaking out, which I like. I like the calm and collected Yona, matter of fact Yona. Just basically like, I'm here to have words. I am the princess. I am not your dragon king. I want my friends back. You better give me my goddamn dragons back. You know, and she's just like, stop playing around. Stop the horse shit. Give me my goddamn dragons. You know, that's basically, I like the matter-of-factly of the situation that she's going for. And their powers and their blood and everything was given to them by us. They are our toys, is basically their argument. Like, we made them, so we can do whatever we want with them. The first generation was made to last as long as possible so they could leave behind descendants. But the blood of the dragons is too thick. Human vessels can't carry it very long. So it is literally because this, I believe, has been mentioned many times, but it's now 100% confirmed that the reason they don't have long lives, the first generation did, but the reason that they don't, that the rest of them don't, is because the blood of a dragon is just too strong for a human vessel. The body can't handle it. The body breaks down. And a human body can't handle the blood of the dragons. And there's your answer. That answers why they have such short lifespans. You know what I mean? And, okay. I'm like, that's a cool new piece of lore. I do enjoy that. That's a very cool piece of lore. Now, this is the first thing that actually shocks Yona in this conversation. And then she remarks, what about Zeno? Zeno's life, Zeno's lifespan? You have the power to make that normal then? And immediately we get the same jae-ha, this faceless, swirl, a pool of blood, if you would. Not that one. He revoked the vow of the dragon warriors. Worse, he pointed a blade at you, the crimson dragon. This mere fragment spat in God's face. And it's like, okay, so obviously this is blasphemy to the highest degree, and they're like, it's funny, had Yona come here to bargain before, I'm curious if they would have been a little more reciprocal of creating, taking away the blessing of the immortal life from Zeno. Or the curse, if you would. But obviously now that he has betrayed them, their beliefs, and everything that they stand for, they don't want to do him a fucking favor. And they know that's what he's after. They know this. So why? They are never going to help that. He said, we will deliver his punishment for an eternity. So they're actually not going to kill him. They are going to torture and punish him and leave his immortal curse intact. Man, they are pissed off. They are so pissed off. And this is where, Yona starts to get a little freaked out, as I said. And she says, Zeno wasn't trying to kill me. He has suffered. Enough is enough. He suffered more than anybody else. He was never going to actually kill me. He wanted me to kill him, and they're just like, where is Zeno? What have you done with him and stuff? And this is where the dragons are like, yeah, no, we don't care what you say. Funnily enough, she's the Crimson Dragon, but they are basically saying, you're the Crimson Dragon. It's sort of like that person who they want to mold into their ideal version. The Crimson Dragon is not someone they can control, but they hold to a standard and a set of rules and do not care about the feelings, reactions, or opinion of this Crimson Dragon. So there is no respect in that regard, right? We see this with people put in the position of political positions, kings and popes and all this kind of stuff, right? We've seen that in reality, and you see it in other works of fiction where it's like they hold this ideal, like this is what you must do as a member of this family. This is expected of you, that all the expectations of what, and if you go outside these lines, these carefully decided lines by somebody else from the moment you're born, if you go outside of this, And we see that in cultures. Many cultures around the world do this. And it's very suffocating, and you wonder why people rebel. And it's like because it's a lack of freedom. It's a lack of control. It's a lack of so many things. And at the end of the day, it's a lack of respect. You don't trust me and my judgment to maybe do things different. And that's okay. No. That thought cannot enter their mind. It's complete arrogance. And it's actually nice to see these very fallible... I like the attitude of the dragon gods as a good contrast here. So they say that he's still inside the chalice. So Yona immediately tries to go to Zeno. And they immediately, their claws come out and they're the dragons. Wait, don't. And they don't actually catch her in time. And boom, she falls into the sea of blood. Now I wonder, now that's the end of the chapter. Now I do wonder whether, because they were like, wait, and they went dragon form to try to grab her, but they failed. I'm wondering if, as Crimson Dragon, she has some level of control to this place. Like her desires, like, where is Zeno? I want to see Zeno. And since this is her chalice and her domain, almost in a way, and they're never going to tell her this, but that is my curiosity, that she is going to the place of punishment because that is her current desire. And her desires are made manifest in this area with some influence from these dragon gods, but also influence or desires made manifest from Yona herself. You know, maybe she has some of the control of this place unknowingly. Or that is the reason they made sure that she didn't step outside the shrine very far, is that it still is a sea of blood, and only they can traverse this area safely. They made it look pretty, but it's actually not a green landscape. Like, had Yona walked off beforehand, she would have sunk anyways. I sort of like the first theory better, that she has some measure of control unknowingly in this chalice. That her powers and authority as the Crimson Dragon still holds weight in this place, this dimension, right? So, anyway, she is now drowning as well. So obviously we're going to get a bit of a Zeno-Yona thing probably going here. Zeno's going to have to work to save her life and blah, 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 and stuff like that. So, anyways, I like the chapter. As I said, it was well-paced. Probably the best thing I can say about this chapter is that well-paced. And it did not linger on any one scene. And we're just going boom, plot point for plot point. And not, as I said, not dawdling when we don't need to. So maybe some people thought this was a little quick to do the whole, oh, these are the dragons. Actually, no, they're not. Surprise. All in one chapter. I kind of prefer that. I really do. Where we don't, obviously this is not a weekly manga. And sometimes it goes bi-weekly and sometimes monthly. I like to sink my teeth into a well-paced chapter almost above all else. As long as we're not missing proper story beats and stuff like that, I would prefer chapters like this where they could have dragged this out for 3 or 4 chapters, and I'm just glad that they didn't. You know, we could have gone on the whole, where are Zeno and jae-ha? They've been gone so long, and that we could have done the whole, oh, don't worry, princess, they're fine. Why don't you take a nap? Why don't you sleep? Maybe they'll be back after you've had a nice shower, a bath. We'll draw you a bath. And this place is wonderful. And doing all this, like, that kind of stuff, doing the manipulation and the deception. They could have done that whole thing like, now, Yona dear, don't fret yourself. I'm sure they'll be back. We can sense their presence right now. They're both totally fine, and Yona buying it. They could have went that route. You've seen it before. I know everyone who reads Yona must have seen that type of scene in other shows with a doppelganger, an imposter, what have you, before. It is constantly, it's a trope. And I'm just glad that they went, nope, we're cutting that shit, all that fat off of that, and here's the meat. So I do enjoy that aspect of it. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed. I tried to go through every detail of this chapter. Also trying to make up for the fact that, I forgot that I didn't upload or actually record my thoughts and the review for this chapter. So Well, better late than never, and still before the next chapter came out, right? So hopefully that one I'll actually remember. Funnily enough, I remembered to read this and must have got caught up with something and completely forgot to, do the review or something like that. Maybe it was a holiday or something. I don't know. Anyways, that's it from me, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you guys back here next time for Yona the Dawn. Hopefully it's not like 3.5 weeks late. Like, I don't even know when this chapter came out, but I feel like I'm at least a couple weeks late, so... Anyways, sorry about that. Here it is now, though, and we'll stay tuned for chapter 264. I did like the chapter. That's not why it's late. Okay, so, see ya.